Hi guys, and welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of Ready Steady Read. So guys, welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of Ready Steady Read. The last season, season 1, 14 episodes were really well received. We had loads of emails just about the way that the content was, the books that were reviewed. So now we're back with season 2. My apologies that it's taken a little bit of time. As I'm sure that you guys are aware, there have been some major changes here about ALAKAZAM, including lots of exciting projects that we've been dealing with and will be dealing with and releasing over the next couple of months. But I've taken on board your feedback. I've been looking at some other magic books, some that have been really outside of my comfort zone, and now we're back with season 2. I thought that I would start off this new season by looking at this book. This is Full Disclosure by Simon Jacobs. I had the pleasure of talking with Simon a little bit about the book, so I thought we'd kick off and do this first episode as an interview with Simon Jacobs, the writer of Full Disclosure. I am here with Simon Jacobs, the author of Full Disclosure. Before we get talking to Simon, who is sitting patiently there because we've got quite a bit that we're going to discuss, just a quick thing from me. Now, Peter, these arrived at ALAKAZAM, I think a few weeks back now. And we've been trying to book in for an interview with Simon for a little while now. And we're in a little group, and obviously we got together and said, right, tonight's the night we're going to film the interview. And so that's given me a chance, because Peter handed me the book and he said, there you go, you love your books, have a look through that. And I was like, oh, new book. And immediately I was caught by the name Full Disclosure. I'll be the first to admit that I didn't recognise the name to start off with, but I've got to say, you know, looking through the book, immediately, this is the same thing that I do with any book, as when I pick it up from the shelf or I get handed it, is I immediately pick it up, I have a look at this, I flick through to have a look to see what the artwork is like, what the layout is like, and I've got to say, I was really impressed with this. It feels... Don't let the size of the book compared to like other things that you see behind me put you off or anything like that. It is chock full of stuff for a start, and it's an amazingly what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a brilliant book. It's just a book that that you would take off the shelf and you would be you'll be reading it from cover to cover, much like I did when I first got it. We'll talk a little bit more about the contents in just a second. Yes. But before we do, ladies, gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Simon Jacobs. So Simon, welcome to this interview with ALAKAZAM, with me specifically. How are you keeping? How's your weekend been?
It's been good. You wouldn't think it was the same place that we had the last couple of weeks has been biblical rain.
Yeah.
And today it's like the south of France. It's just, but that's the weather in Northumberland. If you don't like it, hang around for 10 minutes because it's bound to change.
I think that's pretty much par for the course for most of the UK at the moment. I as we're filming this is a Saturday, early June, and I was off yesterday, and because it's been half-term week, you know, I thought, oh, I'll have a day off, just so I can spend a little bit of time with the missus and my son. And every time I book holiday, I always get jibed a little bit, because they always go, oh, you always pick the right weather. It's always great when you have time off. You know, you're going to have a great time out in the sun. And I picked the only day where it literally rained from the moment I got up to just before the moment I went to bed. Did it put us off? No, we decided that we were going to go to the beach and go to the amusements, which is, of course, the one thing that you do when it's raining.
Yes. We did the exact same thing last weekend. There was a fair up here, and we went, and it was freezing cold, blowing a gale, raining. It was obviously on like a big field.
Yeah.
Mud all up your shirt, all up your trousers, and your shoes are covered, but we had a great time.
Yeah, that's it. You know, when you're in the company of family or friends, then it doesn't really matter, does it? It's
my little boy's at the age now where he's 13 and he wants to go on everything, and I'm nearly 40 and I'm ready to I'll just stand here, I'll just watch, I'll hold your court.
That was exactly my answer. No one wanted to go on the Helter Skelter, and I'm just looking at it thinking, right, it's blowing a gale, it's absolutely bucketing down with rain, and I don't really want to sit on a Helter Skelter, so we compromised and went to the amusements and spent loads of money putting 2p's into machines to get the little tickets that come out just to win a couple of Malwams. So that was money well spent.
They have got a seriously good markup on there.
Haven't they just? Haven't they just? But we made of it what we did, and after spending time there, we came back, and we spent the rest of the afternoon just sort of like doing our own sort of things. Him playing on his game, and my wife catching up with a couple of books that she was reading, and it gave me a chance to also go back through this as well, because one of the things about having magic books and reading magic books is that I like reading through them. I like going through them, but I also like dipping in and out as well. I like the idea of dipping in and out of here. So just a little bit of a background on here. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been in magic. Where the sort of like bug bit you. How old you were.
I was a child of the 80s, so big influence was Paul Daniels at the time. He was absolutely, he was on the telly every weekend. And that was I must have been maybe 6 or 7 at the time when he was really at his peak. And so then obviously Christmas rolls around and I got the magic set. And a lot of people, I think there's 2 camps of people that get the Paul Daniels magic set or a magic set when they were kids, like the Dynamo one now maybe or whatever. Some people open up and go, yeah, is that it? And some people open up and go, that's it. And I was definitely the second one. I was definitely the, wow, this is amazing. As soon as I got over the fact that it's not real, man. It's not real magic. Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Now into read the instruction book. When my dad read the instruction book, he taught me that. And then so then I got that. And then so there was obviously that love for magic, and my parents really were supportive of anything that I enjoyed. So I got the sort of the magic books that you'll get, like the sort of beginner's guides and the stuff like that, the kind of thing that Nick Einhorn put a couple out. That sort of thing, like nothing like massively taxing. We're not like burning or anything like that. It was your standard sort of nephew stuff, and I sort of got through all that, but then I didn't really know how to progress from that. And then I sort of fell into acting and sort of progressed that a bit more, and that ended up doing that for a long time. I did that as a profession, which was very sort of you get a 6 months contract here and a 2 months here, and I was between contracts, and I was probably about 22 maybe, and I still loved magic but wasn't really sort of progressing it any further than sort of basic sleight of hand and maybe like my own version of a top change and things like that. And I just thought, between contracts, I thought, you know what, I'll just Google it and see what comes up. And I Googled it, and all this stuff, all this that I never knew existed was there. And I was like, and it was like ALAKAZAM and all these other magic stores and Penguin and everything. And I couldn't believe it. And at that time I was 22, and I had loads of disposable income. So it was like I was back into it in a big way. And really progressed it. And then but I didn't really see it going anywhere as a profession. But then we were at an engagement party, and there was a guy going around the tables. And I thought, so it's not just being on telly or being on cruise ships or something. Like, you can do this, and you can go around the tables. Because I was always interested in card magic, but really cards and a bit of coin magic. But he was doing card tricks and like a bit of Professor's Nightmare and coin tricks and coins through the table and stuff. And I was like, oh, right, okay. So then I really pushed and learned as much as I could, bought as many books as I could, bought as many tricks that I could. And from that point, I thought, right, I'm going to get as good as I can be to the point where I can fool people, and then I'm going to wrap in being an actor, and I'm going to go back to what I really wanted to be when I was little, and that's what happened.
Oh, so it's a very, very well, you know, and this is one of the things that I found immediately with the book is that you do certainly come across in this like you are very focused. You know exactly what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love about the book is the fact that you are passionate about your material. You're passionate about your material, though. And I should just say off the get go, having looked at the routines and effects that are in here, and even the moves, you know, you put a lot of thought into the way that they're structured, exactly what's going to happen in certain places, but you haven't fallen foul of the fact that you could at any time stick in like a really complicated slide, and because I find that a lot in magic books. You know, you obviously a lot of the magic books that we end up reading are that person's own material. There are some exceptions where you end up with maybe guest contributors, but quite often you go through and it's like, well, I'll give you an example. There's a wonderful changing card effect right at the very beginning of this book, right? And I've read changing card effects before. The oh, this is wrong, let's make it right. That's, you know, and then it's either a color change, an open color change, or a sort of maybe somebody uses a top change. And sometimes things are sort of wedged in, and you think, why were they put in there? Why were you putting in a top change at that point? Why were you wedging in this more difficult slide at this point here, when actually something like a double lift would have sufficed, you know, or something like this would have sufficed.
I think that there's, I mean, I'm a total move monkey. I love learning new sleights, and I'm really passionate about gambling sleight of hand. I'm currently reading the Steve Forte books.
Yeah.
I'm reading Forces Unseen, and there's some absolutely knuckle busters in there. There's some really like amazing things. But like I even say at the beginning of the book, I'm not trying to fool magicians. I'm trying to fool lay people. And if you can get out of that mindset of this is so basic that it's not going to fool someone, you will remember back to the first time you saw a double lift.
Yeah.
And the first time you saw someone turn the card over, turn it back down, put it in the deck, and bam, it's at the top of the pack. Mind blown. And if you can get back to that mindset, stop thinking like a magician, then I think you're going more down the path like that you need to go down to be a worker. It's all good and well putting in these sort of knuckle busting routines. Don't get me wrong, there's some difficult stuff in there, but a lot of it is stripped back. I need to get from A to B as quick as possible. What will do it? A double lift will do it.
Yeah, and the book does very much remind me of the works of my good friend John Carey, you know, because one of the things I love about John's work is that, and the same is true with the material that's in here as well, is that you're right, you know, we do as a whole, and I'm guilty because I, like yourself, I'm a move monkey. I love moves, but you know, I'm also aware of the fact that sometimes learning how to do these moves, you know, unless they really alter the effect in any other way, is kind of a bit redundant, because you know, learning how to do the diagonal palm shift where actually a jog shuffle will work just as well. You're not diminishing any of the effect, you know, kind of opens your eyes a little bit.
As long as it's not, if that move's there for a reason, then albeit. But if that move can be simplified, and I'm a massive John Carey fan, absolutely. I've got loads of his books, and but what I love about his work is he strips back to the bare minimum. I've seen him live, and I've seen him lecture, and he's been up for our Magic Circle, and he can do the tough sleight of hand. He can, you know, it's not that he's not capable of doing it, but why work smarter, not harder?
Yeah, it's a great mentality to have, and you're right. You know, it's having the foresight, I think, to say no, I'm not going to use a top change here, or no, I'm not going to use this here when I can use a double lift, and it doesn't diminish any of the effect at all. And you know, that is, like I said, it's very evident right from the word get go that you know, certainly with the first routine in here, Hazel's Confusion, that I mean, there's no doubt, is there, that a wrong card, right card, and a colour change in with it as well is going to be something that laymen are going to go, wow, that's amazing. You know, we recently filmed an academy with Eddie McCall, you know, who's one of the UK's top underground card men. And he, you know, his opening effect was essentially a series of colour changes. And he made the same sort of observation that you don't have to go in. If he was asked, what would you show me a trick, or he was put in the position, I'll go and show those people a trick, he would just do the color changes. And much in the same way, for me, Hazel Confusion is a similar sort of idea. You're not going in there and go bang, 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 and, you know, immediately knocking them down. You're going in there with something just as strong, but actually the method behind it is I guess, you know, for magicians basic, but you know, you should never lose sight of that. You shouldn't, you know.
Yeah, I was really sort of, when I was writing it, I was really in two minds whether to put that in, because as I'm going through it, I'm thinking, well, this is not beginner, not bad, not but basic. And I think I even say that at the beginning, like the first, it's split into the book, split into sections, and the first section is early work, and it was more just and I thought, you know what, I still do it. I've been working for 10 to 12 years maybe for people, and I still do it, and it still flaws. So and I've got such, like, it's my real it's the first thing that it wasn't just learning someone else's trick. It wasn't just learning someone else's routine and someone else's pattern. It was my own idea, and it made me think, I've got something here. And the more I learn, the more I just sit playing and messing about with the cards, and the more things came, and that was one of the first things that made me think I've got something worthwhile. It's worth me pursuing this.
Yeah.
So I've had to put it in. And I think it's so easy to overlook it as something basic, but it is basic, but it is still fooling for lay people.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there. You know, what fools us what doesn't fool us doesn't mean it won't be entertaining for lay people. That's it. You know, you take the fooling part out of the equation, and it becomes about effect. And the truth of the matter is that effect for a lay person, you know, is going to be great. Because obviously I've not been out performing once over since the easing restrictions. Obviously, you know, for me, I've tried out new material on members of family and stuff. I tried this out on my sister-in-law. We were lucky enough to be around there last week for like an indoor barbecue, if there is such a thing. But you know,
it's not just a grill.
And I did Hazel's Confusion just for her, and it registered in such a strong way that, you know, I immediately thought there's no surprise there to me. Because one of the things that I do all the time is a changing card type of effect, and it's no surprise to me that actually, you know, that's going to register strongly. And
I think it's got a great hook, and if you can get it a great hook, and it's like, I think lay people really buy it. I think it suits my character as well. That sort of self-deprecating, it's going a bit awry. There we go. I've got there. That kind of fixing things as we go. Like, I'm a magician, I should be able to fix my mistakes by doing something magical.
Yeah, that's it. And that, again, you've hit on a good point there, in that if something goes wrong, how are we going to fix it? Well, you're the magic man. It's like, yeah, I am. there we go. You know, why wouldn't you fix it by magic? It's a very strong routine, and you know, I am glad that you put it in there because it reinforces to me again how good those type of effects are. So yeah, no, well done for that. The next section in the book has some interesting stuff on it. One of the things that caught my eye was RNFW. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I'll be brutally honest. I've done it. I did tweak because I like to tinker with some of the stuff in any books that I read. I love the way it's structured. I love the series of changes that happen in there, and I'm not going to give it away too much because you know I want people to see. I want people to read it and see how good the routine is. I've tried it both. I've tried like the single changes and also so that it just all change at the same time. All right, you'll know what I mean by that. And I just love it. I think it's a really nice effect, and something that I know moving forward I'm gonna be using more and more. One other effect in there that caught my eye is you have an oil and water in there as well.
Yeah, I really like. My favorite thing about writing the book or coming up with tricks is coming up with a ridiculous name for them.
Yeah.
And that was no exception. An interesting commentary on the state of society.
Yeah,
is probably the longest, most convoluted title I've ever come up with. But I love it. I love coming up with ridiculous names. But yeah, it was one of those things. The plot of Oil and Water always appealed to me, but I couldn't get away with it. I couldn't get away with like most of the methods for it are taking cards out of the pack. And somewhere along the line, you're going to have to probably use duplicates of one of the cards or something like 7 of clubs and a 7 of spades or something like that. For me, it might work, but I never tried them because to me, obviously, I couldn't get out of the mindset of the magician. I couldn't get away from that. Surely someone must know. I couldn't get away from that magician's guilt.
Yeah.
These are different cards, and I'm saying they're the same. So,
yeah.
and then we were at a convention, and Maddie Gilbert, however he wants to pronounce the name of it today, he did his Oil and Water for like about 500 people in the audience, and that you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
So at that point, I thought, I've got to go back to this. I've got to go back to finding a way to do this that fits me and my style, but for some sort of justification for it.
Yeah.
Not just and I think I love it. It's a great one for me. I love doing it. It's just that sort of full explanation of why it's working, and you know I like to have a little bit of truth in a routine, a little bit of this actually happened, and we do. I mean, if you read the book, that's the premise of it. What do? We open a pack of cards, we take the jokers out, we put them in a pack, and that's what we do. And then it stems from there and into the magic side of it.
So, if I was to ask now if you would be happy to show us this effect, would you be happy to show us this effect?
Yeah, certainly. Well, yes. So I'll just show you what happened. We've got 6 jokers. Oh, I have to turn them the right way. My OCD. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could have brought them all, but we'd be here all day if I had. So I've got different colours. I've got 1, 2, 3 red back jokers, and if I've brought the right ones, we've got yes, thank goodness. 1, 2, 3 blue ones. I'll leave one face down so you can remember which pile's which. Something, as I say, it's a daisy, slippery. If I just mix these, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. As I said, I have to just check that they are all the right way. If I just leave this for a little time. Now, the wicked thing is, it doesn't happen when they're face up. It only happens when they're face down. Just give it a second. That should be enough time. They will just split into the colours. It's really weird. And I thought, like, when I saw it, and I saw this in the drawer, I thought maybe I've just put them away that way. So I thought, you know what, I'll double check. turn them all the right way. I will check. And so I went back and said, oh yeah, they're all the blue ones. They're the red ones. And if I mix them up again, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. And now, if you were here, I would do this in your hands. I would say, I would remind you, it doesn't work when they're face up, only when they're face down. I will put them all in your hands. You would turn your hands over, you would deal them out, and you would see they've split again.
Yeah, nice.
It's crazy. And now, when I first discovered this, I thought that is really cool. I thought that was a really exciting thing, that the blues would never stay mixed with the reds. But the more I thought about it, the sadder it made me, because we see this all the time. We see this all the time, that factions won't mix, that blues won't mix with reds. We see it in literature, Montagues, Capulets. We see it in religion, Catholics, Protestants. We see it in what really matters, football, Man United, Man City. Red and blue never to mix. And I thought, wouldn't it be much nicer if we could just mix things up just a little?
Nice. Yeah, lovely.
And the lovely thing about this is now we're reset.
Lovely. Yeah, that's great, mate. Thank you for performing that.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you for performing that. Yeah,
thank you. Sorry about the cameras there. I don't know what happened there. Like I said, technology. Eh?
Hey, we can't help technology. That's the thing, and like I said at the very beginning of this, but even before we started recording, that I said I've never recorded on Zoom before. So if this goes wrong, then then it's solely my fault.
What it is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's Zoom is not my friend. I would much rather get to a gig and do it. I didn't do many of these Zooms over lockdown and stuff. But a really good friend of mine was struggling with their business and they were doing this sort of thing. So I did a night of magic for them, and there was just something so lacking. There was no synergy between. I think it's the fact that magic is obviously such a personal thing. You're in amongst people. It's intimate. And you can't get that kind of connection, feeding off the energy from the audience, and like the claps and the laughs where you're expecting them, because my routines are really structured, and they might seem very off the cuff and free, but it is so hard scripted that it's I'm gonna bang 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 laugh, bang 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 laugh, move, and I'm gonna relax I'm gonna do the move on the laugh. I'm going to do the move on the relax, and not having that, it was just like, it was really disjointed.
No, I can completely understand that, and I think we're one of many that are experiencing the same sort of thing. There's nothing like live magic, unfortunately, or live entertainment, and magic in particular, because of the intimacy of it. I've got to say, I love the oil and water routine, and I love oil and water as a plot anyway, but it does take the hook to get people's interest here, and also the amount of phases as well. This had a nice amount of phases in it, unless you're someone like Juan Tamariz or Maddie Gilbert. Obviously, doing multiple phases is going to be a difficult task for absolutely anybody, but what you've done there is you've taken the phases down to a minimum. It's got a nice hook to it, because of the presentation that you've given it, and also you're working with the backs here. This is the thing, it has a very good clarity to it, because like you pointed out, for the most part, people that are presented with cards in front of them, even most people know hearts and diamonds, but they don't know clubs and spades for the most part, certainly. And even though there's reds and blacks, I don't think I think there is still an element of confusion here with the faces, whereas the backs are very clear, blue, red. One of the other things, I guess, is as a methodological thing is the fact that because you're using jokers, you get some displays that you can't get using other cards.
With most methods, this will not fly with anything but jokers. In my opinion, it might try it. I don't think it will.
Yeah,
I think the question, if I take these out of my wallet, which I do, they're in every wallet, every jacket. I've got dozens of these set up in anything that I take out. And if I have jackets and jeans, and my jacket's like a woman's handbag with so much stuff in it. But I know it's got wallet in, I know it's got cash in, and I know it's got these in. Yeah. If I take them out, that's explained away. I've got jokers. Why would they be in my pack?
Yeah.
If I take out 6 cards, well, why aren't I getting them out the deck?
Yeah.
That's another weird thing that I think this circumnavigates that.
Yeah.
There's an explanation as to why I've got them.
Yeah.
And I think going back to what you were saying about routining, I think a lot of that stems from being an actor and in 3 acts, like everything's got there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And a lot of my things are in the rule of 3 of I'm going to show you once, I'm going to show you twice, now we're going to finish.
Yeah.
And there's build, finish.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you see a lot in comedy, like doing something 3 times, it's going to be funny. Then stop. And this is just that's what a lot of my routines are structured on, is doing something 3 times. Because 3 times, 1 is good, 2 is great, 3 is really good, 4's too much.
Yeah.
Again, it's just one man's opinion, but
it's a very, very sound idea, and we have lots of different examples in Magic of where the rule of 3 works really well. Immediately we have free fly, which works really well because of this sort of symmetry. We have something like cards across, which is again 3. So there are plenty of examples, and I think it holds you in good stead to think about the way that you structure effects in that way.
I certainly think 2 is 1 is bam, good. 2, 3 is good. 2 is not enough. I don't think you could do something twice and end there. I don't think it's enough. You need to do 1, 2 kicker. I just don't think it's enough to do something twice. And like I say, 3 is a good rule if you're looking to do your own stuff.
Yeah.
Look for that structure. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same. Like the oil and water is the same thing 3 times. They're going to separate 3 times. It doesn't necessarily have to be separating them 3 times. It could be 3 different things, or it could be, like I said, do it once, do it twice, kicker, or do it once, kicker, topper.
Yeah.
But I always look for that kind of structure.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I think it holds you in good stead to have that sort of mentality. So we said earlier on about the you alluded to the fact, as did I, that we're sleight of hand nuts. We like moves and stuff. You do have a move section in here. Now these are moves that feature some force cuts. There's a wonderful handling of the slip force in here. I think it's great, and it reminds me, and I'd have to check because I'm sure you credited it here. It reminds me very much of the flip flop thing of Simon Lovell's, that sort of force. I can't remember the exact name of it, but I love the idea behind it. You did say at the beginning, or you said to me before we started recording, that you had some of the you could show us a couple of the false cuts. So
certainly they're just, I mean, I always have a pack of cards with me. Somebody once said to me the other day, "Is your house just full of cards everywhere?" Yeah. Ask my partner; she'll tell you.
I think a lot of us are in that same position.
And we have packs of cards on the side tables when we're watching the telly, and sitting just feeling out what you can do and where you can go, and does this link to this? And that's how most of these I came up with just messing about. But we'll take the camera down a wee bit there again. So there we go. So I'll show you. This is I absolutely love this. This first cut is, I think there's so much you could do with it. It lends itself to masses. We'll have a card. Could you start coming up all right? There we go.
Yeah.
So we'll stick it back in and we'll lose it. This isn't the cut. That's not it. This is the cut. And then from here, you know, I there's so many places that I can go with this. I can double undercut. I can double cut, and there it is. I'll tell you what. You're a magician. Just sit. I'll cut cards. You just say stop.
Stop.
Right there.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Brilliant. You are good at this.
Yeah.
There's so much you can, and you can work it as a full deck false cut. You can. There's so much you can do with it. And it works as, if we go through it, okay, let's, if a spectator cuts now, and they choose this card, let's say, and we complete the cut, right, now I know where it is, I know what and there it is. That couldn't be fairer. They can cut these cards all day long now.
Yeah.
And I still know that it's going to be next to, whatever the card is, it's going to be next to the Queen of Diamonds.
Yeah.
Because I've peeked it halfway through the cut. There it is. Nice. It's the Jack of Clubs, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and so it works as a peak. It works as there's so much versatility to it, and I think it's flourishy without being showy offy.
Yeah,
I think there's and there we go. That's a full deck cut. There's masses and masses you can do with it.
Yeah,
and it works on a lot of different levels, and it's just like I say, it was just one of those things that I came across when I was just messing about.
I think one of the things that struck me with it is it's the amount of utilities that you have with it. That's the beauty of it. There will always be this argument of to flourish or not to flourish, and I think the problem is that generally what happens is that those that fall in the those that are normally being bombarded with the flourishes too much argument are those that probably do too much flourishing, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is, and there's nothing wrong against flourishing at all, but it's kind of like they end up doing it, but there doesn't seem to be any real purpose behind it. At least when you fan a deck of cards, you're fanning, which is a lovely, beautiful flourish and enough to convince anybody that you can handle a deck of cards. It has a purpose because people take cards back. I know that Daniel Chard, for example, when he uses flourishes, they serve a purpose because the flourish at the end of it normally is where something is produced, you know, like be that aces or a selection or whatever. Color change flourishes are done obviously to affect something magical happening. So as long as they, to my mind, I think, you know, if they have a use at the end of it, rather than just flourish for flourish's sake, then they're far more powerful to me. And this is what I love about this, is it's utilitarian. It's a utilitarian concept. You're doing flourish where you pick a card, you use it as a key card placement, you're using it as a force, you're using it as a control.
So much you can do with it. It lends itself to a lot of things. I mean, even just like sitting, if you sort of controlled a card at the top and a card at the bottom, let's say the 4 of diamonds on the top, the king of diamonds on the bottom with 2 different spectators, you do the move, obviously without them, so you do the move, and now those cards are next to each other.
Yeah.
When you finish, they're next to each other from through the way that the cut works.
Yeah.
So you basically you're just cutting a deck with a bit of panache. Yeah. That's just like I've never even. It's just one of those things that the more you use it, the more you can see ways to use it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and one of the things that I just noticed there, you know, if you to approach the table, take the deck of cards out, and then, you know, the amount of times that I've cut the cards, had a break, and then gone into a force, and I kind of think to myself, you know, even though I'm sure that this will be passed by, why am I cutting the cards first? You know,
It's
but
funny,
there,
I've just read something on that, which is in the Steve Fortes sleight of hand, gambling sleight of hand, which is if you were going to strip the deck, let's bring you back down. If you were going to strip the deck, that's what you would do.
yeah, yeah,
Why? If we're gonna force a card, or if we're gonna try and control a card, why would we strip it where we could it,
yeah,
and then effectively putting those cards back on the bottom?
yeah,
That makes no sense.
yeah.
But
And the point is with your car is that exactly this. If you was to take the cards out and do this, people immediately go, they pay attention to start off with, but you've accomplished something as well, because now you're set to go into a force if you wanted to.
Now you can classic force, you can timing force, you can dribble force.
Yeah.
From this point, you've got a lot that you can do. I mean, you could hit, you could Hindu, you could everything. There's a world of possibilities that you can do with it.
Yeah.
And that's why I use it all the time. It's one of my favorite things I've ever come up with.
Well, I think it's great. I really do, and you know that just forms you know, one of a myriad of moves that you've got in the move section, all of which I think have great applications. So yeah, very very good. Yeah, it's just such a very well written book. You know, it really is, and the stuff in here you see straight from the word get go that you've used it, you've refined it, you've played around with it, you thought about the way that you're going to approach stuff. I love the fact because you don't get books that have color pictures in them anymore. You know, I mean, line drawings are great, but you know, there's something to be said about color pictures where you can see, like there's one part in here that when I was reading about RNFW, where you were saying about like the I think it was just about the way that the cards pivot round. Yeah, it's this bit here. There's one moment where you're using one packet to flip the other one over. Yeah. And you know, sometimes, you know, as well as is explained in words, and it was very well explained in words, you know, sometimes you need that visual cue to go, yeah, right, okay, that makes sense.
I'm a really visual learner.
Right.
And when I was writing it, I was just thinking, what would I want in it? Where the way that I wrote it is I wrote them all out in just like in a really basic word format. And then I sat and went through them, and I wrote this needs a photo to explain it. This is just it's confusing to me reading it as the person who wrote it. It needs a bit more clarity, and to have a picture, especially on some of the cuts, like the read complex.
Yeah.
But the picture shows you and just clarifies it. The finger position and where it needs to be, exactly where I'm doing, exactly how I'm flipping things over with a packet, anything like that. I just think, and I've read so many magic books, like we've got a bookcase full of them, and I just thought, I'm gonna write this how I would want it written and how I would want to read it, and the pictures that show where I think needs more explanation. And I just thought, well, I might as well do them in color, because a lot of them, like they're all in water, although it's going to pick up tonally, it's just not it's not going to be clear enough.
No, quite. And I'm glad you did. I really am glad that you did, because as much as I like illustrations and black and white photos in lots of books, you know, it's very rare to see the color ones. But like I said, I think sometimes the color photos are needed just for clarity points. You know, just to see where certain cards are, where they kind of lie. And you know, the book is you know, it's replete with photos as well. So again, you've obviously made a point here of saying, right, this is a photo that we're going to need at this point to clarify something that I've written down. So yeah, no, it's very good.
Really trying to get the photos next to the passage. That is, again, that's another sort of niggle of other books that I've read. That passage. Where's the photo? And I'm turning like 2 or 3 pages to get to the photo, and it's like, right, but I need to refer back to what I'm reading and looking at the same time. So I really tried to lay them out as much as possible. Of look at this picture, read this bit. This is what's going on in this photo. and try and get them as close as possible. But I am no graphic designer, but I really tried my best to get the layout because sometimes the layout is just as important as the information that's in it.
Yeah, well, I think you've done a grand job. I really do. I think you've done a grand job. Look, Simon, I can't say too much more about this. I think it's wonderful. I think the routines in here are very practical. I think that, again, you thought about everything that goes into making strong magic without making it complicated magic. So there's lots of effects in here where it's very clear what the effect is, without burdening it with like kickers or too much that isn't needed. So I love it. I really do. I think Full Disclosure is a book that is going to be very popular with magicians, and I hope that this interview goes somewhere towards telling people more about the book. I really do, because
I can understand why people wouldn't buy it, because effectively, like you said, when you picked it up, you looked at the name and you thought, that is not a name I know.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And I allude to that in the book. I'm not John Carey. I'm not, Brother John Hammond. I'm not Steve Forte. You don't know who I am. And so to hear somebody, to get that great feedback from someone who I know, just looking at to your side there, how many books you read and how much you love books, to hear the feedback that you've enjoyed it and you're going to use the materials.
Yeah, most certainly. Like I said, there's already I would say 4 routines in here that I've already started working on, and look, if I was to, it keeps falling open to RNFW, because that tells you how many times I've actually gone back to it and had a look at it.
I absolutely love that trick. I think it's just, there's so many like magical moments in it. It's just
there is.
The thing I love about the 90% of the material is it's done from a shuffle deck. Like it is a real worker's book that you can go out and use. I genuinely believe that the material in this book, you can go out with a pack of cards and a pen and a few other bits and pieces like your jokers and the kings for another routine, and you can do that. They could do work the tables with just this material.
Yeah, and I most certainly agree. No, I think exactly that. I think exactly that. So Simon, thank you for joining me and discussing Full Disclosure.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, you're very welcome. I said at the beginning, and you just said it again there, that I didn't recognise the name, but I'm so glad that this has been passed over to me to have a look at, because I think it's just dynamite. I really do. So thank you once again for that. And I will say thank you again for joining me. Thank you for taking time out of your night. And I'm sure that we'll be hearing more from Simon Jacobs in the future. So that was the interview with Simon Jacobs, guys. If you like what you saw, then click the thumbs up button. And if you have any comments, then please put them below. That's it. We'll see you next time on Ready, Steady, Read.